Welcome to another edition of How to Build Lifetime Cash Flow Through Real Estate Investing. I'm Rod Khleif, and I'm thrilled you're here. I know you're going to enjoy the gentleman we're interviewing today. He's a real powerhouse, and I actually sought him out because I saw a social media post that he had posted where he had to raise $4 million over a weekend, and I was like, okay, I got to get this guy on the show. His name's Tim Bratz, and I'm going to leave it there. Tim, welcome to the show, buddy.
Hey, I appreciate having me, Rod. Excited to be here.
I know that you've got, over 1,300 units, $85 million portfolio, and you just took down that real big portfolio in the fire drill that I just described. But let's go back, if you don't mind, and just talk about how you got started in this business and how you got to, the success that you're at today.
Well, again, thank you for having me. I know you got some real studs on this show, so it's a real honor to be here.
Thank you.
Yeah, man, I was going through real estate, or I was going through college when the market was going crazy last time, 2003 to 2007. And people said, hey, if you want to make money, get involved in real estate. And so it's kind of what motivated a 20-year-old kid and decided to get involved in real estate. My brother lived out in New York City. So after college, I moved out there and became a commercial real estate agent. So I was brokering commercial leases, office leases, and some investment sales. And, I just remember walking around New York City like on a Tuesday morning one time, and there were all these people in the park. It wasn't like Central Park. It was one of these like side parks or one of these smaller parks in New York City. And I realized there was something more to life than going to a day job all day. I was like, how are these people just sitting in a park and hanging out and being able to play with their kids and throw a Frisbee to their dog and read a book and take a nap in the middle of the week? Why aren't they at a job? Why aren't they at a business? Why aren't they, working somehow? So I knew there was something out there, and I got into like the whole personal development phase of reading Rich Dad Poor Dad and How to Win Friends and Influence People and Think and Grow Rich and all these personal finance books, and got introduced to the idea of residual income and passive income and doing something one time and getting paid on it over and over and over again. And then I got to see that firsthand by brokering these commercial leases. So I remember the first deal that I did was about 400 square feet in Greenwich Village of Manhattan. And it was like an
Your
art
first
store.
Acquisition?
This is my first lease.
Oh, gotcha. Did you do retail office? What was your sector?
Yeah, so it was mostly retail.
Retail, okay.
Ground floor, retail space, and it was like all the side street kind of stuff. It wasn't like anything on Madison Avenue or Broadway. But yeah, I found this 400 square foot space. The owner let me market it. I found an art store to come in there, and for 400 square feet in Greenwich Village, they signed a lease for $10,000 a month with a 4% annual escalation on a 12-year term. And I did the math, and I'm like, this guy's going to make, this owner's going to make almost $2 million for doing something one time. And over the next 12 years, he'll make $2 million off of it. I'm like, I'm on the wrong side of the coin. I need to stop brokering real estate. I need to start owning real estate. So, just kind of on a whim, it was a bad winter, and I was like, I want to move down south. So moved down to Charleston, South Carolina, beautiful town, and decided I want to be a real estate investor. So I didn't have any money.
When was this, buddy?
2008, 2009.
Oh, good timing. Okay.
Yeah, so it was right after the market tanked.
Right.
And fortunately, I didn't do anything stupid before that and go get a bunch of stated income loans. And
did you have a job, or was it just totally real estate investing?
Yeah. So I took like a part-time job for about 5 or 6 months just to pay the bills and get the lay of the land when I went down there. And then I quit that and decided, hey, if I'm going to invest in real estate, I need to do this like on a full-time basis. So I just, I burned the ships and just went through this analysis paralysis phase, though. That'll probably a lot of people do before they pull the trigger on their first deal. And you're like, I need to know everything before I do anything. And after about 3 or 4 months, I'm like, I'm not going to learn all this stuff. You can't learn to swim until you're actually in the water. If you read about it in a book, that's cool, but you can't really actually do it until you're actually in the water. So I decided to pull the trigger. I found the cheapest house in the MLS. It was more, I didn't have any money. I had like $8,000, which is, something, I guess, at a 23-year-old kid. And then I had a credit card that I had just opened up. It had like a $3,000 limit on it. And I went to a seminar, and they're like, you can call up your credit card company and ask them to increase your limit.
So you buy their program. Oh, I hate that.
So you buy their program, right?
Yeah.
And I did that. And then but I was able to, well, I didn't do it then, but I
Okay.
remembered it from going to the
And so
seminar.
you started in single family, and that's where a lot of people
I
start.
bought a duplex. Yeah.
And you're still in single family, right? You're still doing that.
Not anymore. So
Oh, you're not.
I
Okay.
did, yeah, I did, I've done everything, man. I did retail flips, like the stuff you see on HGTV, the high end stuff, the low end stuff. We did a lot of turnkey
Okay.
flips. So buying, stabilizing, putting a renter in place, and then selling it as like a packaged deal.
Turnkey. Yeah.
Yeah. So did a lot of that. And then I've done hundreds of those transactions, and then fell into an apartment building, bought an 8-unit, and then
Okay.
bought another 8-unit. And then it just kept on
Where?
in Cleveland, Ohio.
Oh, Cleveland.
So that's
Okay.
where I'm from originally.
Okay.
And yeah, love is a many splendored thing. Brought me back to Cleveland, Ohio in
Oh God, I'm
2013.
sorry. I mean, I'm happy for you for the love part, but no, I'm kidding. I'm going to get Cleveland hate mail. I'm just kidding. Cleveland's an interesting market, and I mean, it's got some really great areas, and it's got some really not so great areas.
Yeah,
But that's
got the urban
opportunity.
tough areas, just like any other city. But
yeah, but that's opportunity too, because it's likely that areas are gentrifying. But so you started in single family. You bought a couple of 8-plexes, and you did the turnkey thing, which let me just say, I think is great for the people that are flipping the properties, but not always great for the people that buy them. That's just my personal opinion, because it's you're at the mercy of the property management company, and if that sucks, the whole deal sucks. And
I agree, 100%.
Okay, but so what was your first big deal?
Probably I bought a 30-unit apartment building.
Wow.
Was probably my first one that was probably over $1 million, and I bought it. Was stabilizing it. We buy it. We want to renovate all the vacant units.
Sure.
So you want to get up to 100% occupancy, and we get that done. And then while we're doing that, we notified all the existing tenants, hey, listen, you're paying like $400 a month for an apartment that should be like $600 or $700 a month. And we were going around, and there were a lot of people. Me as the new owner came in, people who hadn't paid rent in a long time, and all of a sudden,
new sheriff in town.
Who's this asshole?
Right.
Sorry.
Right. That's all right.
So they weren't too happy, and one of the guys actually, we had to call the cops on him 7 times in 14 days. And he ended up setting a fire in the building, and the whole friggin' building burnt down. This is my crown jewel. This is like my Santa Maria, the biggest building I ever bought.
Wow.
Until the time. Wow. And some tenant 2 months into owning it lights the whole thing on fire. All the tenants are displaced.
Anybody get hurt? I hope not.
No. Thankfully, it was during the day, and my construction crew was there. They were able to evacuate the entire building. But I mean, there were moms home with babies.
Oh,
there were some animals home without, where the
wow, that is such a blessing.
Stuff.
That's such a blessing. I've had lots of fires over my career, and that's wow. Okay.
Yeah, so it was scary, and really learned a lot about insurance and going through that whole process and abatement and everything else, because this is a 100-year-old building in Cleveland, Ohio.
Did you recover your money?
Yeah. Yep. So we recovered the money and ended up selling the building. It was with a partnership. It was a headache though. Like we had,
it's a lot of work
for insurance. It was like a B-rated insurance company, which is like on the brink of bankruptcy.
Yeah, guys, don't do that. Okay, that's a clue. Okay, and I want to say something else. I don't recommend that you jump into real estate the way that Tim did either. I recommend that you have a job and you replace all of your income before you do that. Now, unless you've got this kind of energy. If you've got this kind of energy, it's a little more scary to do it the way that Tim did it here. But so
I was a 23-year-old kid. I didn't have any children. I didn't have a wife. I didn't have anybody.
Oh yeah, see, that's different. That's
so it was cool that I was able to do that.
Right.
And make that commitment. But yeah, definitely, if you have responsibilities, I try to do it on a more gradual scale.
Phase it. Yeah. Okay. All right. So I know that you're really good at finding off-market deals, direct-to-seller deals. Can you speak to some of the strategies that you use for that? Because right now, if I ask any investor out there, what's your biggest problem? It's finding deals.
100%.
So how about adding some value? Maybe I can black this out in Cleveland so you don't have any competition. No, I'm kidding.
I'll tell you what, I think I think deals and opportunity, it's like sunshine. I think there's plenty of them to go around. I think there's plenty of opportunity for everybody to make a lot of money in real estate. And so I'm totally cool sharing a lot of my ideas. So I'll get some water. So as you know, Rod, everything that's on the market, well, let's back up. Residential has a different set of rules than commercial real estate. Residential, there's all these protections in place because it could be a little old lady. This is her only home and they don't want somebody to take advantage of her. Commercial real estate, you're assumed to be a more sophisticated investor. And so it's almost like the wild, wild west. There's not the regulations and everything. So that goes into the brokers. And I learned this when I started getting into commercial, is that if you're a residential broker, you get a listing, you have to put that on the MLS within a couple of days because you have a duty to the seller. In commercial, there's no regulation like that. So what a lot of the commercial brokers do is they'll get the listing, they know who the top 20 or 30 buyers are in town, and they'll go shop it so that way they can earn both sides of the commission. And so typically, if you see, what I found anyways, if you see a deal that's on the market that hits the MLS or hits LoopNet, it's because it's a pretty crappy deal. It's because the top 30 people already passed on it. So it's hard to find opportunities that are on the market. Otherwise, you get into a bidding war and you're going toe to toe with people who have a lot more money, hedge funds and real estate trusts and family offices. And it's hard to beat them when they just need to park their money somewhere and get a 4 or 5% return. So I realized that I got to go off market. And all I did is I took the same strategies I was using in residential and started applying them to the commercial realm. So we started doing some direct mail. Looked up all the commercial properties. We did direct mail. And
what size range?
So I'll give you one specific area where my office is and where I like to buy a lot of apartment buildings is a city called Lakewood, Ohio. It's kind of upward trending, cool town. Yeah. And, it's a city of about 30,000 homes. And then there's only 1,500 apartment buildings there. So if you were to put a mailing campaign together on residential, you're gonna spend some coin dropping, direct mail and postcards. There's not as much that need to go out on the commercial side because there's only 1,500 buildings. So what we did is we spent a little bit more money and got nicer type of direct mail. Because if you go to any seller's house right now, they have a stack of postcards of all these investors trying to sell them or tell them that they'll buy their home. So I realized we need to do something that gets a little bit more attention. And so one of the things that we did is we got like these little envelopes. They almost look like wedding invitations. It's like on this papyrus paper and it's handwritten on the outside. And then they open it up and they say, hey, listen, we're a local investor. I got sitting on some cash, was wondering if you're looking to buy or sell, or, maybe there's some projects we can invest in with you. And if you come from a money perspective, a lot of people will call you back. And as you know, if you're a real estate investor, especially in the commercial realm, you're always either a buyer, a seller, or maybe a private lender, because we don't like to have our money just sitting in an account not making anything. So as soon as we sell a property, we're looking to buy something else, or we're looking to lend or joint venture with someone. So I've had a lot of positive luck, and we found a lot of awesome deals that way. Tell
me one more time, because you did that real quick. So the letter says, hey, I'm sitting on some money. If you have any interest in buying as well, you put that word in there, buying or selling. I'd love to talk to you a little more detail on that.
Or joint venturing. Maybe there's some ways we can make money together. And so I just take it from an approach of like, hey, let's be pals instead of being on the opposite side of the table.
Instead of trying to sell them on one or the other. I love that. That's very unique. That's a great tip. Okay.
Yeah, so it's a way that we can kind of be on the same side of the table instead of across the table from each other.
Yeah, no, I love that. So what else? What else do you do?
And then the other thing that I did is we actually get a lot of deals this way. Is we took our existing buyers list and broker list and wholesaler list from the residential realm, and we just started deploying emails to them on a weekly basis, maybe twice a week, saying, hey, we got money, we're looking to buy some apartment buildings. And what I found is all these residential wholesalers and investors don't know how to underwrite an apartment building. So typically they do get apartment leads, but they just discard it because they don't know what to do with it. So being top of mind all the time and letting them know, hey, I got 300 grand I need to deploy. I have just sold a building. I got 2 million that I need to roll into a 1031 exchange or whatever. I mean, you can make up a story, whether you have the money or not have the money.
Right.
All you want is to stay top of mind so that people are thinking of you. And I'll give you an example, Rod. I just bought a 48 unit apartment building in Sheffield Lake, like a block away from overlooking Lake Erie. B plus kind of a neighborhood, and rents were a little bit low. I bought this thing for 1.5 million. I'll put another 400 to 500,000 into it. So I'll be all in for 2 million bucks. And the after repair or stabilized value of the property is expected to be right around 3.4 to 3.5 million dollars.
That's nice. That's nice. And how, what you gave us that example. Why? How'd you find
that? Was from a wholesaler. So that was from a wholesaler who knew nothing about apartments. She talked to some woman who about a single family home, and she said, "Hey, I'm not looking to sell this house, but I got this apartment building that I just inherited, or I don't even remember what the full backstory was, but she just wanted to get rid of it." And this wholesaler would have just discarded this lead, but because we were constantly hitting her with emails of like, we're buying apartment buildings, she thought of us first, sent it over to us. We were able to close on that deal. And
you offer a finder's fee. Do you do anything in your communication to juice things up a little bit?
Yeah. So this is a wholesaler who literally didn't have a cell phone because she couldn't make cell phone payments.
Wow.
We bought her a burner phone so that we could communicate with her. Yeah. And at the time of closing, we paid her a 1 point referral fee. So we paid her $15,000, changed her life.
Day. Yeah.
We got an awesome deal out of it, and everybody wins.
That's a great story that you can replicate in your communications moving forward as well. You definitely want to utilize that in enticing people to do business with you. No, I love that. That's fantastic. And so, how do you make all these relationships? How do you get all these email addresses from these wholesalers and these? I mean, I know you were in the business, but what would you tell somebody that's just starting out?
Yeah, if you're just starting out, I would jump. I mean, social media is powerful. That's how we met, Rod.
Right.
And there's all sorts of social media groups and that promote apartment building investing, commercial real estate investing, even residential investing. Right. And I would just go in there, and you'll see if somebody posts a deal, you'll see 20, 30, 50, 100 different email addresses. And so all we did was started ripping those.
I love it. I love it. Scrape the email addresses from people interested. Love it.
Yeah. And even if there's not a deal posted in one of those, you could just make up a phantom deal and say, hey, listen, or find like a real deal that you have, post it in there, say, hey, I got this awesome deal. Who wants to buy an apartment building for $20,000 a unit in Jacksonville, Florida? And you're going to get a huge response of it, and just say, hey, private message me your email address, and then you could organically build an email list that way.
Love it. Now, let me warn you guys that are listening, that are in my multifamily group. We will block you if you do it in there. And I hate to say it, but that group is at almost 18,000 people, because no promotions allowed of any kind, even indirectly. So just as an aside, but it's a fantastic place to learn. Okay.
Right,
so
right.
So go there. It's multifamilycommunity.com, and you'll be very glad you did. And since I'm putting a plug in, if you guys aren't booked for Chicago, there are still seats left, August 24th, 25th, and 26th. And if you have any interest, either as an active investor or even a passive investor, go to that boot camp. You'll be very glad you did. And you don't even want to invest passively in any asset class or any investment vehicle if you don't fully understand it. So be sure that you educate yourselves, because I will tell you, there are a lot of sponsors out there right now that have not gone through a crash, or they're caught up in irrational exuberance, and they're buying deals they shouldn't be buying. And if you're invested in one of those deals, you're the one that's going to suffer if there's a hiccup. So get educated, and you can go to multifamilybootcamp.com and check that out. And tickets are very, very reasonable. So I hope I get to see you in Chicago. All right, I'll get off my my promotional soapbox. You've got 1,300 units now. Where is the bulk, or what markets do you invest in?
Yeah, so we own several hundred units in Ohio, and then we own a lot of stuff that's in Georgia, South Carolina. We own some vacation rentals in Florida. That's another asset class that I'm involved in. I don't do anything single family other than vacation rentals. And then we have buying a building in Texas this month.
I pushed past the marketing. Is there any other marketing methodology that you would recommend to somebody that's getting started to try to find deals?
I think, I think those ways of going about it, like a way that doesn't cost you any money, or a low cost way, is really just building the buyers list and then getting on email blasts and just reaching out, go to the RIAs, go to the landlord association meetings, and do stuff that way. Here's another cool technique.
Okay.
Who are the most motivated sellers in owning rental property? Typically, they're people who are going through the whole eviction process, right? Like there's a bunch of tenants who aren't performing. They got a crappy management company. And so we found that, just like you look for motivated sellers on the residential side, we just applied that to the commercial side. And so we went down to the eviction court, and we just hung out outside. We talked to eviction and real estate attorneys who were going through all the evictions and talking to management companies and talking to owners who were there. And they're like, son of a gun, I haven't collected rent in 2 months. I'm paying hundreds of dollars to go through this eviction process. They have another 30 days or 60 days in the property without me collecting any rent. And then I have to go invest another $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 to turn the unit. Like that's the most motivated a landlord can be. And so we went down there and just started talking to people and met attorneys, and they know that we're buyers. So, you got to go through those steps.
Have you gotten a deal that way?
Yeah. Got a,
okay.
It was a small one. We actually ended up wholesaling it because it was smaller than what we wanted to hold. But yeah, we got an 11 unit apartment building that way.
I teach this from stage. Go to eviction court, and here you go. Here's justification.
Yeah.
Fantastic, brother. That's fantastic. I know you like me, you love mindset. I spent 20 years following Tony Robbins around the planet, and part of my podcast is motivational clips I do every week. So let's talk about mindset for a minute. What drives you? What makes you jump out of bed in the morning and keep you going? Because you're obviously very, very successful. And you've certainly tapped into that because, in my opinion, 80 to 90% of your success in anything is your mindset. Your
100%. Yeah, I agree.
So talk about that for a minute.
Yeah, I think, obviously a big motivator for me is is my family. I have a 3-year-old, I have a 1-year-old, I have a wife, and that's a big motivator for me. But a lot of people say their why is the reason they're building this business is because it's for their family. I don't know if my son gives a crap about apartment buildings and who wants to do anything with it. So I think it's a little bit of a cop out to say your family's your why, but right. My main motivator to go deeper than that, I think, is just to set a good example for my kids and to set a good example for others. I think when you have kind of goes back to I think I saw this in a Spider-Man movie where it's like when you have the ability, you have the responsibility.
With great,
right.
Something comes responsibility.
Yeah, I know with great ability comes responsibility or something like that.
Yeah.
And I'm a big believer in that. I think if we have the opportunity to change somebody's lives, I think we have the responsibility to do that too.
And you know what? That's obvious because you know what you said when you said that wholesaler that you gave $15,000. You said it real quick, and I'm not sure everybody listening heard it. You said we changed her life, and you absolutely did. So I love that. That's where your heart's at, my friend, and that is absolutely a secret to success. Those of you listening. That is a secret to success, wanting to make the world a better place, wanting to help other people. I love it. Absolutely love it. So let me ask you this. Do you have a favorite failure that sets you up for future success? Because everybody thinks it's just a straight path and it's so simple and they see the success, but they don't realize the sacrifices and the discomfort and the pushing through fear and the setbacks that happen. So do you have a favorite failure?
There's been a lot of failures. There's been a lot of learning curves and a lot of learning experiences. Mm-hmm. I remember one rental property I bought based on, this was a single family. I bought it based on what other houses were listed for, not what other houses were selling for, or based on like a financial analysis. And I got wiped out on that one. Mm-hmm. One of the things I'm going through right now is realizing that Rod, you and I have been through a lot of experiences and a lot of learning curves. And, for me, this is my 9th year investing in real estate now. And now that I'm building a team, I have 5 people on my investment team. I own a management company with about 15 people in it. And I have a lot of joint venture partners in some of my out-of-state projects too. That manage those projects. And something that I'm going through right now is realizing that they didn't go through those same learning curves. It took me 9-10 years in order to get the mindset and the knowledge that I have today. And allowing my team to fail forward, even though sometimes it costs me money or it costs me time, it's gonna set me up more in the long run to do that. And it's it's gonna be very, very difficult to watch somebody like, this is common knowledge. Well, it's common knowledge for me because I've been doing it for 10 years. It's not common knowledge for them because they've only been on board for 2 years or 3 years.
It's funny that you say that, because I just actually came unglued on a couple of my team members today, and I love that you just added value to me, actually. Okay. In allowing them to fail forward. I love that. And you absolutely just added value to me today. This is a very timely conversation. And I call them seminars. They really are no failures. They're all learning experiences. Right. They're failures if you don't learn. Okay. Bottom line. But, let me ask you this. Were there any aha? Well, you told me about the aha moment. It was when you saw the amount of money that guy was making. If you were to go back, how old are you now?
33.
33. If you go back and tell 24-year-old Tim with what you know now, what might you do differently?
I would find a mentor earlier, and I would join a mastermind earlier. I think that opened me, and sometimes you got to pay to play. Usually you have to pay to play to get in.
I'm in 3 masterminds right now. I pay $65,000 a year. Two of them I've made $3 to $4 million a piece from, and I have my own mastermind as well. In fact,
I 100% agree with that.
Yeah.
I spend the same amount of money, and it has paid dividends. It is the best investment you can make, not only from a personal development standpoint, but from the connections and the resources. And the reason it costs money is to keep low-level thinkers out. It sets a certain bar where you're only going to be hanging out with people who think at a certain level and are going places. And when you start hanging out with those kinds of crowds, as we all know, you are the average of the 5 people you hang out with, not only financially, but relationally,
health,
physically,
everything.
Right.
Everything.
Right. So hanging out with those groups and then meeting people who are like, and I like real estate groups, but I also like entrepreneurial groups, because then you're the edified, credible individual in that other entrepreneur group, and you're like the only real estate person in there. And so whenever somebody has a big windfall of cash, launches a product, sells their business, they think, I'm going to go and invest with Rod because he's the stud that I know in real estate, and I feel trusting of him. And
you've got a relationship. You've added value to each other. I will tell you, anytime 2 like minds get together, a third intangible mind gets created. And masterminds are fantastic. Mentors are critical. I have mentors now. Tony Robbins, of course, was a big mentor. I've had real estate mentors, and that's the way to do this business, guys. So, I don't care if you use me or who, but get help, get some help. I've got my free 200-page book, which is like a textbook for this business, but get out there. There's stuff on YouTube. There's plenty of stuff to learn. Don't dabble either. And that this goes for active investing and passive investing. So don't dabble, educate yourselves. But let me ask you this. What do you think is the number one reason people fail in this business?
Long-term vision, or lack of long-term vision. I think we live in a society of instant rice, instant pudding, instant success. And if you don't get rich in the next 12 months, then it's not working, and I liken it to exercising. Like, you can do the work, exercise, you're putting in reps every single day, sweating, bleeding, muscles hurt, and go every single day for 30 days to the gym. And after 30 days, you don't look any different. Nobody can see any difference on the surface.
Yeah. There's a book that I gift. There's a book I gift about this called The Slight Edge.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just those little improvements that you make. Yeah, I give that to my coaching students.
Just doing it day in, day out. It's not till day 60 that you actually see some results. It's not till day 90 or day 120 that other people start saying, "Hey, Rod, man, hey, you're trimming up, man. You're looking pretty good." So realizing that it's working underneath the surface, you just got to stay with it. I mean, real estate is probably the most time-tested, solid venture that you possibly get into, where it works. There's so many people who have made tons of money, millions and billions of dollars in real estate, where this works. This vehicle is actually tangible. Like it makes
solid.
sense.
I mean, it's a solid vehicle. It just really is. If you just stick with the fundamentals,
but you got to stay with it.
And this is not a get rich quick thing. This is a become very wealthy over time thing. And you've got to realize that if somebody says you can get rich quick, run the other direction. This is not that vehicle. So let me ask you this. Can you share one quote or saying that you love that you reference?
You've mentioned Tony Robbins a lot. And I think one of my abilities, when I bought that house down in my first deal down in South Carolina. I didn't have the resources. I didn't have the time. I didn't have the knowledge, or I had the time, but I didn't have the knowledge. I didn't have the money, but I was resourceful. And I think resourcefulness is the ultimate resource. I learned that from Tony Robbins.
Yeah, that's a Tony one for sure.
And that's my favorite quote of his, by far.
Yeah,
so
I've got a paper clip in my hand. What can you do with a paper clip? How resourceful can you be? Like MacGyver something.
MacGyver figured it out, right?
The guy you want, right? That's what you want to embody. So, what do you think is the most challenging part of this real estate game, in your opinion?
I think there's a lot of mental roadblocks,
Okay.
What's happening with the economy? Where's the interest rates going? Listen, if you just go out and do a deal and you buy at a wholesale price, it doesn't matter, and there's certain things that you can do to navigate around those types of roadblocks and the sun is falling and all that kind of stuff. I think a lot of people get deterred and they get caught up on the what ifs instead of just going out and doing the activity. And I think it's probably mental roadblocks. I think that's probably the biggest thing in any industry, not only real estate. That's why people don't succeed, or the toughest part of.
No, that's 80 to 90% is mindset. It really is. People think it's the real estate knowledge, but it's not. And that's why at my events, I spend a good amount of time on pushing through fear, on establishing your goals and your whys, on planning your week so that you're consistent and effective and you're able to execute, because that truly is 80 to 90% of it. People actually, sometimes complain because, they want to get it, but it's like drinking through a fire hose, period. But that's the most important piece. You got to actually take action. Otherwise, you get caught in analysis paralysis or the opposite. You don't really study it enough so that you're out there making mistakes when you're doing it as well. Yep. So let me ask you this. I have a lot of listeners that maybe have a couple of houses. Maybe they've got their first duplex. They know they want to go bigger. They know they want to be you with 1,300 units and an $85 million portfolio. Or maybe they haven't even started yet. What advice would you give that group, just the entire group? What advice would you give the group about this business?
If you go hang out with brokers and people who have already been in the commercial realm, it's very intimidating the way that they talk and the words that they use and the verbiage and it makes it so complicated and it makes it feel like it's so far out of reach, but it's not. All it is, it's. I just took my residential real estate investing knowledge and I just conveyed it into commercial real estate. And so return on investment is a cap rate, after repair value is stabilized value. Don't let that stuff get in the way and mess with you mentally, because it's not as complicated as what other people make it maybe seem to be. I was with one of the top Marcus and Millichap brokers, actually at a mastermind this week. Out of Dallas, Fort Worth, Texas. And he's looking to get into investing himself. And I told him, he's like, man, I just, Tim, how do you do it? I'm like, dude, you are way smarter than I am. I just simplify. I do everything at a third grade level. And if I can't do it at a third grade level, then I don't do it at all. And so I think one of my unique abilities is maybe simplifying complicated things. And I said, man, you need to unlearn some of the stuff that they told you that you need to talk about and know. And because that's not the stuff that actually makes you money in building wealth and building a portfolio of assets that's going to create cash flow over time. All you need to know is go and buy cash flowing assets. You need to know marketing on how to find them. And you need to know how to raise money. If you could do those two things on how to find deals and find money, you can build a massive portfolio.
That's it. Those are the two big ones right there. And you're right. You can absolutely dumb it down. And that's my biggest struggle from stage is to try to dumb it down as much as I can so it's not overwhelming. You need to immerse yourself in it. You've got to understand the nomenclature so that you're not intimidated. Right. But the bottom line is, how well does the asset, what's the property's ability to service the debt? Bottom line, and can you improve that? And what's the net income? And did you stress test it to make sure what happens if you have a 15% vacancy and you've got some empty units or the rents come down a little bit? Will it survive? What's your break even for the property? It's really not rocket science. It really isn't. And then finding money is just building relationships. Bottom line is building relationships and establishing trust. You start by building rapport, and then by finding commonality, and then you establish trust, and I train my students to create a sample deal package. So they can say, hey, if I find the new ones that haven't done a deal yet, if I find a deal that looks like this, are you interested? And getting soft commitments. And, it really is much easier than people think. Well, listen, brother, you've added a tremendous amount of value. This has been a blast. I love your energy. And, I appreciate you taking the time to be on the show, my friend. I really do.
It's been an honor to be here. I really appreciate the invite. Rod,
absolutely my pleasure. I definitely want to stay in touch. And if you're ever down the Sarasota way, please make sure that we connect. And if I'm in Cleveland again, I will absolutely do the same.
Sounds awesome, man. Looking forward to it. Thanks again for having me.
Pleasure. My pleasure.
Thank you for listening to the Lifetime Cash Flow Through Real Estate Investing podcast. If you've enjoyed the show, please take a minute to visit iTunes and leave your comments. For more resources or to connect with us further, please visit our website at rodkhleif.com. Tune in next week for our next show.
Any investment opportunities mentioned on this podcast are limited to accredited investors. Any investments will only be made with proper disclosure and subscription documentation and subject to all applicable laws.